Hello, Durud and Shalom. Guys, make sure you like the stream. Let me know if my audio is good. We are entering a new war, apparently. Let me know if you think that this is happening, because it seems like it's happening. So, a new war is starting, apparently. Maybe. Let's actually see. Let's see what's happening.
New tonight, the Trump.
How's my audio? Let me know in the chat, and also let me know if you have already liked the stream. Thank you, guys. I see my favorite people are already here. Fantastic. Okay, let's just get started.
New tonight, the Trump administration is increasing pressure on Venezuela and its leader, Nicolas Maduro. President Trump saying on social media, airlines should consider the airspace over the country closed in its entirety. Trump this week designated Maduro and his allies as members of a foreign terrorist organization and also suggested that land strikes could be imminent. CNN contributor Stefano Pozzebon is joining us now from Caracas. Stefano, how is the Venezuelan government reacting to this post today from the U.S. president?
Well, Jessica, we haven't heard directly from Nicolas Maduro, and that is quite telling me. Let me tell you that. Before we do a little bit of analysis, we do have, however, a statement from the Venezuelan government saying, in the words of their defense minister, Vladimir Padrino Lopez, that no external power has any faculty to interfere, block, or move any decision on the sovereignty of Venezuela. So total rejection from those words from Donald Trump, who early on Saturday had said that he had a message to airlines and pilots to consider the airspace over Venezuela closed, and that seemed to pave the way to some for.
Let me know in the chat if you would welcome Trump attacking Venezuela, or if you don't. Let me know in the chat. I want to see what your opinions are. I will read the chat.
Of direct intervention here in Venezuela. As I was telling you, Jessica, it's telling that we haven't heard directly from Nicolas Maduro today on Saturday, nor we have seen him yesterday on Friday. On Thursday, Maduro gave a speech to the troops, but that was a video message from an undisclosed location. At this point, the last time anyone saw Nicolas Maduro out in the streets of Caracas was only on Wednesday this past week. And that is 4 days that we haven't seen him as of late of tonight. And that, of course, is leading the way of a lot of speculation of where exactly is Nicolas Maduro. Is he perhaps hunkering down, perhaps in one of the bunkers that we know the Venezuelan government has at their disposal in preparation for some form of eventual direct attack on Venezuelan soil? Or perhaps he is still trying to channel messages.
Ooh, I like this comment. John is saying the president himself is a violation of Venezuela's sovereignty. Fantastic comment. Love that comment. I wish more people understood that. Yes. He like, oh, this is a violation of Venezuela's sovereignty. No, Maduro is a violation of Venezuela's sovereignty. Fantastic comment. Beautiful.
To Donald Trump and telling him to sit down and have a negotiation. I don't know if you saw it, but over the last week, several outlets have reported that indeed Trump and Maduro himself did speak earlier last week, Jessica. We haven't been able to bring that, to confirm that, but we will definitely bring that to you as soon as we hear it from either Caracas or up there in Washington. But right now, Venezuela is approaching this weekend with a bit of a mix between apprehension and expectation. Of course, there is a lot of apprehension because the risks of something going wrong and opening up to an open conflict are very, very tangible. Jessica?
So what are we talking about? Are we talking about ground invasion or just airstrikes or some special operations? Are we talking commandos? What are we talking? Are we talking intimidation only? What is happening?
All right, Stefano Pozzebon there in Caracas for us. Thank you so much for your reporting. We are also learning new details about a deadly U.S. strike on an alleged drug boat in the Caribbean. Sources telling CNN that the boat was initially disabled when it was first hit on September 2nd. But sources say when officials noticed they were survivors, they carried out a second strike, killing everyone on board. CNN's Betsy Klein has more on this. Betsy?
Well, we are learning that the U.S. military carried out a second follow-up strike on a suspected drug vessel operating in the Caribbean on September 2nd after the first strike did not kill everyone on board. Sources familiar with the matter telling our colleague Natasha Bertrand that when the initial strike appeared to disable that boat and cause deaths, the military assessed that there were survivors. The second attack killed the remaining crew, 11 people died, and the ship sunk. Now, one of the sources says that Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth had ordered the military before this operation to ensure the strike killed everyone aboard the boat. It is not clear at this time if he knew there were survivors before that second strike. But President Trump announced the strike and the death toll on the day of the attacks. Again, September.
So this is a huge topic right now because a lot of people are saying that this is some violation of the Geneva Convention or some maritime laws or something like that, because the rules of war apparently on water is different from land. If you're on land, you could do a double strike to make sure everyone is dead. Apparently that's legal under international law, but you can't do that when it's on water, because on land, if somebody is not dead, they could still be a threat. But in water, if you damage their boat to a point where, or if they're drowning and stuff. I mean, nobody has seen this video, so I think it's too early to judge what the hell happened there. So no, because we haven't seen the video of exactly what happened. So this is just it's a he said, she said kind of situation. But I mean, I haven't read the Geneva Convention regarding the rules of war on water, but I've heard like you can't do that apparently. Yeah. And by the way, a lot of people, and the United States is a signatory to the, to the Geneva laws. So a lot of people are saying this is a violation of international laws of war for them to do a double tap, like double hit. So yeah, but I think it's too early to judge before we actually see the video.
September 2nd, but the Trump administration has never.
Oh, somebody is saying, what about violations from Venezuela's side? Trump don't attack them for being too nice, right? Yeah, I mean, yeah, but what about? Yeah, I mean, Venezuela obviously violates international laws. They're Venezuela.
Toll on the day of the attacks, again, September 2nd. But the Trump administration has never publicly acknowledged killing survivors. This was the first strike on an alleged drug vessel in the Caribbean. There have since been about 20 known strikes in the Caribbean and one in the Eastern Pacific. We should note these details were first reported by The Intercept and The Washington Post. All of this comes as the president continues to weigh his options in Venezuela, suggesting yesterday that action on land could start very soon after weeks of threats. And there has been a major show of force in the region as the U.S. has amassed significant resources. That includes the world's largest aircraft carrier, the USS Gerald R. Ford, roughly 15,000 military personnel, more than a dozen warships, and 10 F-35 fighter jets. Trump has been briefed by his team on a really wide range of options, including airstrikes on military or government facilities and drug trafficking routes, or a more direct attempt to oust the country's president, Nicolas Maduro. Betsy Klein, CNN, Washington.
Betsy, thank you so much. And we are joined now by former NATO Supreme Allied Commander Admiral James Stavridis. He also served more than 3 years as the head of U.S. Southern Command and is now vice chairman of the investment firm, the Carlyle Group. Good to see you on this Saturday. Thanks for being here. We have talked, you and I, before about these strikes, and you have made the point that intelligence could be gathered if these boats were intercepted instead of immediately blown up. What do you take away from the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth's defense, that these are intended to be lethal strikes, that that's what they think is, in their mind, the biggest point of all of this?
Even if these are intended to be lethal strikes, once you conduct that first strike and now your enemies are knocked out of action, think of a pilot parachuting down after an aircraft is
Yeah, but you don't know if they were knocked out of action because we haven't seen the video.
shot down. Think of a soldier on the ground who's knocked unconscious by a concussion. Think in this case of a couple of alleged drug runners now floating around in the water. To go in and kill them at that point deliberately, if all that is factually correct, is very troubling in two ways. One, the laws of war are such that when an opponent is knocked out like that, it's incumbent upon you to capture them.
Which laws of war? Is this U.S. laws of war or international laws? Some people suggest that international laws, when it comes to the U.S., are not really international laws. They're kind of international suggestions, because it's the United States that is the country with the army that is the reason why we even have those so-called laws. I mean, guys, a law is a law only if it can be enforced, right? If a law that cannot be enforced is not a law, it's a suggestion. So, where's the enforcement mechanism of these laws? I mean, has any U.S. laws been broken here?
Knocked out like that, it's incumbent upon you to capture them. And then secondly, the point you made a moment ago, Jessica, and the one you and I have talked about repeatedly, why not capture them and get the intelligence, interrogate them, and, oh, by the way, prosecute them for the crime of drug running. But you lose that intelligence. Final thought here, I saw a statement from the Senate Armed Services Committee, which is the senior committee in Congress that oversees the armed forces, joint bipartisan statement from the co-chairs, Senator Roger Weicker and Senator Jack Reed, both of them veterans. Jack Reed, an Army officer, former West Point graduate. The Senator Weicker is a former JAG officer in the United States Air Force. They intend to conduct vigorous oversight. I suspect they'll be looking at this one closely.
And so as all of these strikes are happening, we do look to Venezuela as well. Trump, the president, saying that airlines should consider the airspace over Venezuela closed. Last Saturday, major airlines canceled flights from Venezuela after an FAA warning. What do you think we should read into this?
We should read into it that strikes are very probable.
So, people are saying oh, these are international laws that have been broken, and this is really concerning. I mean, again, yeah, I know part of these are part of the Geneva Convention, and the United States is a signatory to those Geneva Conventions, right? But so if somebody says, therefore, you shouldn't be breaking those laws, do people ask sometimes, well, why not? Because you follow laws, because not following laws will have consequences. That's the point of following laws, right? And if there are no consequences, then that's not technically a law. It's just like it's just like a agreement, and not very agreement that you might not be very committed to, right? So people act like international law is like a revelation from God. It's like the commandments brought down by the heavens that everybody that you have to abide by. If you violate them and there are no consequences, because so the consequence that people refer to is, well, if US does it and normalizes them, then everybody else will do it as well. Well, they are doing it. Is Russia not violating international law because the US is abiding by international law, and Russia is like, oh, we shouldn't be, I don't know, sexually violating Ukrainian women, because look at what a great model United States is being for the rest of us. Is like Russia and China and North Korea and the Islamic Republic has that argument worked so far? Because that's the main when people say this is this is international law, so you shouldn't be violating it, you should be asking, okay, but why not? What's the consequences if you do violate it? Because obviously nobody could enforce these laws on United States. I mean, other people should be following these laws because they're not the United States. And the consequences is that, I don't know, bigger countries might come after you because you're violating these laws. But if you're the United States, then why shouldn't you be violating these laws if there are no consequences? And people say the reason why you shouldn't be violating them is because it sets a bad example for other countries. But again, that doesn't make any sense, because if people are following the rules, it's not because they're just like, oh my god, look at the US, such a beautiful country, following these rules, so we should follow the US model. That's not what's happening. The reason why other people follow these rules is because the United States tells them to, and there are consequences for not following these rules. So if you guys, I'm not against international law, okay? But if you want international law to, some of it at least, to continue, then the main entity that is making them exist should be happy. You should make the United States, the United States should be the interest of United States, because here's the thing: the American taxpayer is paying more than their fair share when it comes to maintaining international stability. Okay, so they should be getting out of this, getting something out of this. So if international law doesn't serve the interest of the country that is paying the price for maintaining all of this, then the law should change. Then the law should change, right? I mean, you could be like butthurt and say like, but no, it's international law and we should abide by international law. That's just virtue signaling. You should ask yourself why. Like, everything is about consequences. Like, what are the consequences if I don't follow these laws? If there are no consequences that harm me, then what's there to stop me? I mean, if you could introduce some consequences, then I would be like, oh yeah, you're right. Then they should be following it. But until then why not? I would just treat these international laws as just mere suggestions. And I listen to your suggestions and I'm like, no, I'm going to kill these drug dealers and I'm going to stop them from poisoning my people. Thank you very much.
We should read into it that strikes are very probably going to occur over the course of this week. If you think back to the Middle East, you and I were discussing that a few months ago.
By the way, guys, if you disagree with me on this, come and discuss this with me in our group discussion, in our discussion call after the stream. I would be interested to see what you guys have to say, because after the stream, we're going to have a discussion in our politics discussion group. We're going to have a live call. Everybody is free to share their opinion. I'm very interested to hear what you guys have to say about what I just said. So the link is in the live chat and it's also in the description.
The airspace over the Middle East, you and I were discussing that a few months ago. The airspace over Israel and parts of the Middle East was repeatedly closed, not only by the sovereign states there, but also from warnings from
we got a super chat.
U.S.
We got a super chat. It's saying, because if there is no international norms, we can do whatever we can whatever you want. Well, I didn't say there shouldn't be international norms. There should be international norms, but how do we have international norms? International norms happens not because people just decided like, hey, just let's write on a piece of paper, this is the rule that we're going to be abiding by, and everybody would be like, oh, okay, let's just do that, and everybody just was behaving well. The only reason why that works is that somebody is enforcing it. If there are no consequences to violating these norms, then it's not worth the paper that you wrote those norms on, right? So who's enforcing these norms? Most international law only is taken seriously because of the size of the US Army, right? So it's Americans and their tax money is paying for maintaining global stability. So given that nobody else is paying that much, I mean, Canadians are not paying that much. The French are not paying that much. People from Madagascar are not paying that much. So what do they get out of it by contributing this much to maintaining these laws? The laws should not be causing difficulties for the country that is maintaining. I mean, you when you get something, you should receive something in return, obviously. So it shouldn't be. So if, for example, if I, as United States, want to kill a whole bunch of people that are poisoning my people, and you tell me, well, you can't because of these laws, I'm going to say, well, change those laws. Change those laws. You don't want to change because you need me for these laws to mean anything. You need me. Without my army, these laws mean nothing. Well, you're gonna enforce these, like, guys, again, without enforcement, laws are just suggestion. How are you going to enforce these laws other than with the US Army? So without me, these laws are meaningless. So rewrite them in a way that if some people are poisoning my people, I can kill them, or else I'm just going to violate them. And if these laws don't serve my interest, then I'm not going to take them seriously. And if I don't take them seriously, no one else will.
And other entities, same situation here. The fact that the president is, in my view, in this case, if he's going to launch airstrikes, I think it's a responsibility on the part of the U.S. to let commercial aircraft, Venezuelan aircraft, know that strikes are coming. So these could be Tomahawk missiles, these could be drones, these could be Marine helicopters bringing Marines ashore. All of that creates a lot of complications in the skies over Venezuela. So when you hear the president of the United States throw that warning out there, to me, it sounds like strikes are coming probably sooner rather than later.
And you went through some of the things you think it could be, but let's talk a little bit about that in more detail. I mean, what should we, if that does happen, what do you think is smart to anticipate?
Let's start with a set of options that were probably presented to the president. They run from going after drug labs ashore, but using unmanned aircraft. Again, Tomahawk missiles, drones to go after them. Next level up would be to go after transportation hubs. Again, using drones and Tomahawks, but then perhaps adding, Jessica, strike fighter aircraft like those Joint Strike Fighters you showed a moment ago, or the 80 combat aircraft that are on the USS Gerald R. Ford. Next up would be going after leadership targets, Venezuelan military targets, their air defenses, their small Navy. They have about 30 ships or so. Their small Air Force, about 40 aircraft. You could take those out. And then at the very high end of the risk spectrum would be actually putting U.S. Marines ashore, presumably to go after these drug sites, go after the targets I mentioned, military ones, perhaps go after, track down, find, capture Maduro. Those are all options. They all have different levels of risk. I suspect the president is wrestling with all of those. Final thought here. Land operations, boots on the ground, very dangerous, not a good idea in my view, because of the complications, the size of Venezuela, twice the size of California. If the president is intent upon escalation here, I think he'll probably end up with the kind of airstrikes I talked about a moment ago.
Yeah, this is the part that I don't understand what's going to happen. This seems like it's going to be really messy. Again, I would like to see regime change.
I do want to bring.
I'd like to see regime change in Venezuela. However, that depends if they can do it right, because it seems like it's very messy. It seems like there are it's not just Maduro that is the problem. There's a whole bunch of different groups that are armed, that they're going to fill the power vacuum. Are they going to be able to clean up what comes after it? Because I will support a regime change in Venezuela if that's a big if they could actually do it properly without causing a lot of chaos and causing a bigger mess than the one that they ended. So let's watch this one.
To a big story that we have been following here over the past 24 hours or so, as we received this statement from President Trump related to the Venezuelan airspace. He said, to all airlines, pilots, drug dealers, and human traffickers, please consider the airspace above and surrounding Venezuela to be closed in its entirety. Thank you for your attention to...
Okay, so guys, when Trump ends his messages with "Thank you for your attention to this matter," is that like I'm getting? Somebody said that's basically for him to show that this is not a joke, this is not trolling, this is a professional. So you know how when he talks, he just goes off like, I don't know. I think that the ones that end with "Thank you for your attention to this matter" are the more official, like basically that's a marking of this is a more official statement than, you know, me meme posting or trolling or just basically dropping my opinions. And, you know, I think that's what that means.
Surrounding Venezuela to be closed in its entirety. Thank you for your attention to this matter. That, of course, leaving a lot of questions about exactly what all of that means. Now, we also have this live look that is coming in from flightradar24.com, as we know that international airlines began canceling last week flights to Venezuela after the Federal Aviation Administration told pilots to be cautious flying around the country because of heightened military activity. Now, this is the live flight radar just 24 hours after that post from President Donald Trump. Right now, I do want to bring in a friend of the show to discuss really what all of this means. We do have Matthew Wiz Buckley, retired Navy FA-18 fighter pilot, Top Gun grad, and founder of No Fallen Heroes Foundation. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us this morning.
Good morning, Josh. Thanks for having me.
All right, so first off, the big question I do want to ask you here is really what this statement from President Trump, as someone who has flown planes there, what it means to pilots and other folks.
Well, the first thing it means, Josh, obviously, is stay away. It means most likely that offensive combat operations are about to take place. So you don't want any civilian aircraft flying near any potential hostile fire zone. I remember in Trump's first presidency, the Iranians started lobbing a bunch of missiles at our forces in Iraq, and we retaliated, and they ended up shooting down one of their own airliners. So Iranian air defense actually shot down an Iranian airliner. Sadly, that Malaysian Airlines flight was shot down in Ukraine by most likely Russian forces. So civilian airliners, civilian air traffic around a combat zone equals potential trouble. So obviously the president's going out of his way to just say, hey, stay away. It's dangerous.
And what we're looking at right now, as I mentioned, is flightradar24.com. It does show a live look at the flights over Venezuela. You can see there are, it appears, a few of them there. Do we have any idea?
Get out. What the hell are you doing?
Is normally what we'd see, if we'd see more flights over Venezuela, if not for the comments from the FAA and from President Trump.
Oh yeah, absolutely, Josh. You can see to the west of Venezuela, it's crowded. That highway over to the left side's very crowded right now because there should be a lot more traffic flying over Venezuela down towards Brazil and some of the other South American countries, and it's a ghost town over there. And the little traffic that you do see most likely is our intelligence aircraft, if they even have their transponder on. And
what are these doing here? Get out of here.
When we look at this, safety, logistical concerns, what would pilots have to consider if they were looking to travel over Venezuela after these comments?
Wait, guys, apparently Trump just talked to Maduro. Okay, Trump talked to Maduro. Trump and Maduro had a call. So let's look at this.
Mr. President, on Venezuela, can you tell us more about why the airspace above Venezuela should be considered closed?
Because we consider Venezuela to be not a very friendly country. They sent millions of people, really, and probably a number in excess of that. And a lot of those people shouldn't be in our country, from jails, from gangs, from drug dealers, from all of the people that came into our country shouldn't have been in our country, causing a lot of problem.
Does your warning
and drugs.
Does your warning mean that an airstrike is imminent, or should we not read it that way?
Don't read anything into it.
The New York Times reported that you had a phone call with Maduro. Did you?
I don't want to comment on it. The answer is yes.
And can you
Wow, Trump had a call with Maduro. I don't want to comment on it. The answer is yes. What's the
Dig into it.
The New York Times reported that you had a phone call with Maduro. Did you?
I don't want to comment on it. The answer is yes.
And can you tell us a little bit
No,
about
I can't
it?
do that.
Mr.
Would you say it went well?
Oh my God.
I wouldn't say it went well or badly. It was a phone call. Yeah.
You've made so
Wow. Maduro actually talked to Trump directly on a phone call. That is amazing. I hope it's recorded. I hope it was recorded. I hope we get to hear that one day. Hold on, we got another super chat. Before, let me actually full screen this. Wait, hold on. This guy's saying the only carrier in the area is USS Gerald Ford, is now in harbor of Virgin Islands. So it seems like nothing will happen for the next couple of days. Okay, interesting. Then why is everybody else treating this like an attack is imminent right now? Is this a bunch of nothing, or is it like everybody else is treating it like something is about to happen? Is this? It could be also intimidation just to get Maduro to step down. Could it be that? Or maybe it's enough intimidation to get some of the people close to Maduro to turn against him. That could be a plan, right? So instead of attacking, just bring and scare the shit out of everybody, and just get then promise that some generals around Maduro that that they're going to be safe and make a lot of money if they just turn them in. So maybe they could actually end this without any war by just getting people to just end this themselves.
Seen as Betsy Klein is live there this morning.
I think that's what they call. I bet you that when Trump called Maduro, that's what they said on the phone. He said, "Listen, we could come in and F you up. Okay, it's pretty easy for us. How about you just step down and give yourself in, and that way you might actually live. Okay, and let's end this without a war." I bet you that's what Trump said in the call. We will protect you. If you give yourself in, we'll protect you. We will protect your family. Don't put yourself at risk. Just give yourself in.
I want to get right to the White House. Seen as Betsy Klein is live there this morning. Clearly, the White House knows there are questions, and not just from Democrats this time.
Yeah, they are facing questions from both sides of the aisle about whether they potentially committed a war crime. And this comes after our colleague Natasha Bertrand reported over the weekend that the U.S. military carried out a second strike on an alleged drug boat operating in the Caribbean on September 2nd, after it was assessed that a first strike.
Honestly, international law is basically useless if you can't just take out drug dealers that are poisoning your people. If this was a violation of international law, then international law needs to be changed. Like, international law is bullshit if this is the violation of it. Like, if people who are poisoning my people, if I, with my giant military and all the technology that I have and all the advanced weaponry that I have, if these people are getting on boats and bringing drugs to my country to poison my people, and I can't kill them, then what the fuck are we doing with these international laws? Like, what the fuck is this?
Did not kill anyone on board. Sources familiar with the matter say that when the initial strike appeared to disable the boat and cause deaths, it was then determined that there were survivors. A second strike was launched on that boat, killing 11.
They're drug dealers. They're killing people. These people are killing Americans.
People in total and sinking the ship. Now, one of the sources says that Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth ordered the military before this operation to ensure that everybody aboard was killed. It is not clear if he
Good. Kill them. No mercy. These people are in the worst industry.
operation to ensure that everybody aboard was killed. It is not clear if he knew that people were alive after that first strike. Now, lawmakers on both sides of the aisle on Capitol Hill now calling for investigations and questioning the legality of this. President Trump fielding questions from reporters as he made his way back to Washington last night. Listen.
I mean, by the way, we haven't seen the actual video, so this is all based on reports that hasn't been verified. So we don't even really know what exactly happened. I'm just saying, if this is what happened, then good. If the reporting is accurate, then good. Like, take them out. I mean, look, guys, who's going? Here's a question. Let's assume that these were actual drug dealers and they were bringing drugs to the United States, and they took them. They attacked them once and they didn't die, and they took them out again. Okay. And let's also agree that this is a violation of international laws when it comes to war on sea. You know, you shouldn't have been doing that based on international law. Okay, what's going to happen now? Like, I mean, if there's violations of American laws, then there's accountability within the American system, and they could pursue that and see how that happens. I mean, given how weak the Congress is, I don't think anything is going to happen. But let's assume that, but within internal American politics, whatever happens, okay, you go ahead and fight that in your Congress or your courts or whatever, right? But when it comes to international law, not American law, let's say United States violated this law, okay? Who's going to come and enforce this law on America? Who's going to do that? Who's going to do that? What power, what military, what force, what entity is going to be like, oh, you violated the law, okay, here are the consequences? Who's going to do that? Exactly, nobody. There's nobody that could come and enforce this law on United States of America. So if you can't enforce it, then that's not a law. If you can't enforce it, it's not a law.
Questioning the legality of this. President Trump fielding questions from reporters as he made his way back to Washington last night. Listen.
Number one, I don't know that happened. And Pete said he did not want them. He didn't even know what people were talking about. So we'll look into it. But no, I wouldn't have wanted that. Not a second strike.
Oh, wow. He commented on this?
Reporters as he made his way back to Washington last night. Listen.
Trump commented on the second strike.
Number one, I don't know that happened. And Pete.
Okay, so yeah, we don't actually know if that happened. That's a good response by Trump. Like, we haven't seen the actual video.
Said he did not want them. He didn't even know what people were talking about. So we'll look into it. But no, I wouldn't have wanted that. Not a second strike.
Now, the U.S. military has amassed a massive show of force in the region and carried out about 20 known strikes on these drug vessels in the Caribbean, plus one in the Eastern Pacific. There are about 15,000 U.S. troops in the region along.
So I'm just saying there's the video. There's no video on the double strike. Last time I checked.
Eastern Pacific. There are about 15,000 U.S. troops in the region, along with more than a dozen warships. And we are learning that this evening the president will hold a key meeting with top members of his cabinet to discuss next steps, John.
Yeah, I keep hearing that sound from the president. The verbiage is so interesting there. He doesn't categorically say there wasn't a second strike. That's what Congress wants to investigate right now. And that in and of itself may raise some very thorny questions. Betsy Klein, thank you very much for your reporting on this. Kate.
Which raises even more questions now, John, with this meeting at the White House you just reported on is happening happening tonight on this very issue. Joining us right now to talk more about it, CNN senior military analyst, retired Admiral James
this guy again.
Stavridis, a former NATO Supreme Allied Commander, partner of the Carlyle Group. It's great to see you again. You also ran Southern Command, so you know this region well. I want to play for you another piece of sound. We had Senator Angus King on this morning, what he said.
It's all about the facts, Kate. The law is clear. If the facts are as have been alleged, that there was a second strike specifically to kill the survivors in the water, that's a stone cold war crime.
Which laws? Are you talking about international laws or or American laws? If you are saying this is a war crime, which laws are we talking about? Like, are we talking Geneva Convention or America's own laws?
Admiral, are we looking at a possible war crime, and who gives that order? Who would know?
Yes, I think Senator King is exactly right. I think the president is right when he says he would not have wanted that. I can't imagine any American would want us to machine gun survivors in the water. This is the functional equivalent of that.
Don't speak on behalf of all Americans. I'm pretty sure many Americans would be like, yeah, if they're drug dealers, then them being dead is better for America than alive. If they're drug dealers who are bringing drugs into America, then yeah, no, showing them no mercy. I mean, they have killed more Americans with their drugs than the number of drug dealers. So don't speak on behalf of all Americans, please.
That World War II, the Nazis did that. We didn't do that. So I think this one screams for a serious, under oath investigation. And I think that's what we're going to see. In terms of who gave the order, certainly the Secretary of Defense would have authorized the mission. He would have authorized the level of force, the lethality of the mission. After that, Kate, it becomes a tactical question: who actually gave the order for the second strike? This is exactly why we need a thorough investigation with a real timeline, a tick-tock, who said what, when, what was the result. But I can't imagine any American believes that we should be machine gunning people that are floating in the water, clearly not a threat to the United States.
You don't know if they were floating in the water. You haven't seen the video. It might have been that they were still on the boat. You don't know if the boat was sinking. Have you, like he's talking as if they were just swimming in the water and they were shooting swimming people without a boat in the water. Like, we haven't seen the video. This is all just a whole bunch of he said, she's like, we don't know what they're talking. We don't know if this has happened. Why are you making stuff up?
Also, Admiral, you've been really helpful in gauging kind of the odds, if you will, and kind of laying out the odds since we started talking about these boat strikes. You have this meeting now that's going to be happening at the White House to talk about next steps in Venezuela. You add all of this, add in this new detail, add in this meeting, add in the phone call between President Trump and Nicolas Maduro. How likely are land strikes now, do you think?
I think it's a 2/3 chance we're going to see some form.
Okay, so if the international law that it violates is the Geneva Conventions, prohibition on attacking persons, wounded, shipwrecked, and defenseless. Okay, so we need to see the video if they were shipwrecked or not, because we don't know. So that's the Geneva Convention. And then UN International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, Article 6, right to life, prohibition of extrajudicial killing. Okay, it's mainly that one. So the Geneva Conventions. UN Convention on the Law of the Sea, UNCLOS, duty to rescue shipwrecked persons. Okay, so there's mainly the Geneva Convention and the CLOS. So those are the international laws, which again, international suggestions rather than laws when it comes to the US at least. But the US law is violated. That is what I care when it comes to the US. That should be taken more seriously than international laws, in my opinion. So US laws violated: Uniform Code of Military Justice, UCMJ, Article 118, Article 92. Article 92 is this failure to obey lawful orders, including duty to refuse unlawful. What does that got to do with it? Article 134, war crimes. Well, it doesn't say. Okay, so I'm not actually sure yet if it violates U.S. laws, which I'm going to investigate as this plays.
Form of strikes. Let's be clear here, Kate. What I think 2/3 chance we're going to see are drones, Tomahawk missiles, maybe some manned aircraft, probably going after drug-related sites. That fits in with the narrative the administration has laid out. What I think is unlikely kind of highly unlikely, are a significant number of boots on the ground, maybe some special forces here and there. I think even that is very high risk. So at the meeting tonight in the White House, I think the president will formally receive these options, take advice from his cabinet, make a decision. I think it's
Guys, if U.S. prosecutors treat this as a domestic counter-drug police action rather than armed conflict, then none of the war law provisions of UCMG or Geneva conventions automatically apply. Ooh, interesting.
a 2 in 3 chance over the next few days this week that we see some strikes. Break. The countervailing thought would be a good one, which is.
And also, there is no clear U.S. criminal statute that directly forbids a second strike unless prosecutors can prove the survivors were recognized as non-threatening and lethal force was used without legal necessity. The violations are mostly international law, not U.S. law. Oh, okay. Interesting. Okay. So, not as important then.
The countervailing thought would be a good one, which is the ongoing potential conversations between the president and Maduro. Let's hope President Maduro wakes up to the reality of what he's looking at and decides now's a pretty good time to head out to a hacienda outside of Havana. I hope he does that. If not, strikes are 2 in 3 chance.
Let's get right to CNN Chief National Security Analyst Jim Sciutto for the latest. Again, I was struck by the fact that President Trump says, I don't know what happened. And Pete said he didn't want them. So what do we know about what actually happened?
Yeah, so you guys even don't know what really happened. You don't have the video.
Yeah, and Trump said he wouldn't have wanted a second strike on survivors as well. I mean, that gets.
Honestly, I would, if it was up to me, I would want a second strike. If these are drug dealers, then I would want a second strike. Guys, what do you guys? Let me know in the chat. If it was up to you, and if the law and if there are no consequences, wouldn't you want a second strike to make sure that they're dead?
And Trump said he wouldn't have wanted a second strike on survivors as well. I mean, that gets to what you said right correctly, John, is that there's been bipartisan question and to some degree outrage at this strike. And to be clear, there were already bipartisan questions about the strikes prior to this particular one, questions about the legal justification for using deadly force against these drug boats. Now you have this second issue, and that the first strike killed a number of those on board, but not all of them, and that U.S. forces carried out a second strike to kill the survivors. That's key because
drug dealers, to kill the drug dealers. They keep using the word survivors. I don't know. Are you trying to buy sympathy for these drug dealers?
the law of war is such that not only do you not kill the wounded or the survivors of a strike, but you have some obligation to give them medical care. And if folks at home are watching this and saying, oh, but they're alleged drug dealers, et cetera, I mean, go to the Vietnam War, the World War II. U.S. medics provided medical care to wounded soldiers of enemy forces. You know, this is about the law of conflict. So now you have bipartisan investigations both in the House and the Senate. And keep in mind, these are Republican-led investigations, of course, John, because they have the majority in both the House and the Senate. And it speaks to broader questions about these operations, right? Because as I said at the start, there were already questions, there were already demands from both Republican and Democratic lawmakers prior to this for the administration to better articulate its legal justification.
I mean, these people are literally poisoning America. Do you know the number of people who are dying in America from these drugs are higher than the number of people who die in war? So this is like war. These drugs are basically like war in America. Like they couldn't kill this many Americans if they were using weapons, actual weapons. So these drugs are like weapons.
This for the administration to better articulate its legal justification for any of these deadly strikes. And they have not been satisfied with the.
Yeah, exactly. Chuck is saying we are under no obligation to provide due process to pirates on the high seas. Yeah, if Yeah, especially, I mean, I know Trump called it a war, but it hasn't been officially recognized as war. This is just basically stopping drug dealers.
Justification for any of these deadly strikes, and they have not been satisfied with those.
Wait, what?
Prior to this, for the administration to better articulate its legal justification for any of these deadly strikes, and they have not been satisfied with those answers. Among their sources of dissatisfaction is that there's been no written legal justification given, which, as I understand it, speaking to folks on the Hill, is required for this sort of thing. So, listen, it's going to be a major.
Here's a suggestion. If you don't want to die in the middle of the sea, maybe get a different job. I mean, you didn't have to put some drugs on a boat and try to smuggle it into America. Maybe reconsider your life choices. How about that? You didn't have to do this
for this sort of thing. So, listen, it's going to be a major issue for not just this administration, but also the Defense Department as these investigations go forward.
Yeah, and again, as Senator Angus King just said, the facts will largely dictate this. If there was a second strike, if there was a strike on survivors, that in itself may cross a line there. Then the question is, who authorized it? These are questions that will, I think, be answered over time. Jim, meanwhile, President Trump, we're learning, had some conversation with the Venezuelan leader, and this is happening sort of separate from this but connected. The Venezuelan leader, Nicolas Maduro, what's going on there?
So President Trump acknowledged that he had a phone call. He didn't describe the phone call, and he wouldn't say.
Guys, have you seen some of the streets in America? Because of it's kind of like some streets in America look. It's like end of days. It's like a zombie takeover. It's like it's worse than a third world country. Like in a third world country, sometimes you see some of the streets and it's like dirty and not very well built, but the people are people. Okay, but there are some places in America and you go look at the streets and it's just like dead people. It's like zombies. This is how a society dies from within. You need to go. This is an extreme situation. Like America, there's many things that is killing America from within. You need extreme solutions to situations like this. You need to go above and beyond. You need to break some rules, actually.
So President Trump acknowledged that he had a phone call. He didn't describe the phone call, and he wouldn't say whether it was a good or a bad one. He said it was just a phone call, similar from Venezuelan officials. They won't say what was said or whether any.
And some people are saying these are not the main way drugs get into the United States. Okay, well then go after the other ones as well. Don't stop here. Go after the other ones as well.
One, he said it was just a phone call, similar from Venezuelan officials. They won't say what was said or whether any progress was made there. But I think, John, that this is part of, it's become sort of standard to this whole Venezuela military buildup, right? That you have a buildup, but then you have a phone call. You have the president over the weekend saying, consider Venezuelan airspace closed, but then saying, hey, don't take that to mean that U.S. strikes are about to follow. There's been a theater quality to this operation, right? Because you have a good fifth of the U.S. Navy right off the coast of Venezuela right now, a force commensurate with at least the possibility of ground operations or even an invasion, which hasn't been used.
Oh my God, we got the best super chat. Oh, this is great. Saying, where is Greta? Dolphins are getting high as fuck. Oh my God, that was the best super chat. Oh, you're a genius. That's peak comedy. I love that. That's gold. Thank you for that. Oh.
And it seems that the administration's hope is just the appearance of that force, and threats like we're going to close the airspace will be enough to push Maduro from power. That hasn't happened yet. There were questions over the weekend because Maduro hadn't been seen publicly, but then he showed up at a public event there. So he certainly hasn't left yet. It raises another question, John, right? Like, what is the actual goal of this? Is the U.S. on the verge of major military action in Venezuela? Or is this for show, hoping that show of force is enough to force them from power. We just don't know. But we do know they're talking. What was said in that call? Was it an invitation to leave the country? Perhaps. We
Yeah,
haven't seen Maduro take that yet.
These are
that was my guess. That was my guess. Let me actually look at this one. Hold on. 1 second.
President Trump is escalating pressure on Venezuela, saying, quote, to all airlines, pilots, drug dealers, and human traffickers, please consider the airspace above and surrounding Venezuela to be closed in its entirety. The Venezuelan government responding, quote, Venezuela denounces and condemns the colonialist threat that seeks to...
How is it colonialist threat? These people don't know that, okay, this is a guys, this is communist talk. This is leftist, socialist, or communist talk, and also Islamist. How is it colonialist? You don't actually, it's not like the sovereignty belongs to the people in your country. Colonialist means that a foreign power is not allowing the people in your country to make their own decisions and determine their own destiny by ruling over them. You are, hey, Venezuelan government, Maduro, you are the one who is basically not letting the people in Venezuela determine their own destiny. You are the one who's faking the elections. You are the one who is oppressing people and stifling dissent in your own country. So how is it in fact, this is anti-colonial. If the United States comes and removes you from power and the people in Venezuela get to make their own decision, get to pick their own representatives instead of these guys ruling over them, oppressing them, then that is actually the opposite of colonialist. It would have been colonialist if you guys had your own choices and America was stopping you from your choices being the rules of the land. But you don't get a choice. Maduro is stopping the people from Venezuela to have their own voice. So that's not guys. Not is just because the West does something, it doesn't make it colonialist. Okay, it doesn't make it colonialist just because everything that the West is doing with another country, just because it's the West, that's not the definition of colonialism.
Undermine the sovereign. Venezuela denounces and condemns the colonialist threat that seeks to undermine the sovereignty of its airspace.
The sovereignty of its airspace, the sovereignty that belongs to the state instead of to the people, the sovereignty that has been stolen by the state and doesn't belong to the people of Venezuela.
Instituting a new extravagant, illegal, and unjustified aggression against the people of Venezuela. Here to discuss is Florida Congresswoman and member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, Maria Salazar. Kind of rich for Maduro to talk about the aggression against the Venezuelan people coming from that regime, right?
Well, that's what these Latin American thugs, dictators, caudillos do all the time. Look at Noriega, look at Fidel, look at Chavez. But, the Venezuelans are waiting for the Americans to come and help them be free again and be free from drugs and everything that Maduro regime has brought to them for the last 25 years.
So there was a call between President
I like her.
Trump
yeah.
and Nicolas Maduro very recently. What do you think happened, or what do you know? I'm sure you have more information than most.
Yeah, well, President was gracious and offered a way out. And Maduro is being instructed by the Cubans, don't go, because that's Maduro's biggest fear, that the Cubans, who are really the one calling the shots, are going to kill him before he leaves. So Maduro
the Cubans or the narcos, who's going to kill him?
The narcos, well, anyone, but the Cubans are the ones who are running the repressive apparatus, and they have been running it for the last 25 years, because, that comes from Fidel's book. And Maduro is very afraid of them. But look, for those Americans who are watching this show, this is a historical moment for the Trump administration. Not only Trump is demonstrating, and I say it from the bottom of my heart, he's not only demonstrating great political courage, he's liberating the continent.
Well, we have to see. This might be a nothing burger. Is he going to go through? Is Trump going to go through? Like what happened to attacking the Islamists in Nigeria, guys? You guys remember that? Because Trump promised a whole bunch of things coming in fighting, bringing in the army and fighting, saving the Christians and fighting the Islamists. That never happened. So, I mean, let's see if he actually follows through. This might also be nothing.
He's not only demonstrating great political courage, he's liberating the continent from China, from Iran, from Russia, from
Jewish Samantha is saying, end the war on drugs, legalize all drugs. Why? Why legalize all drugs? They're poison. They're actual poison. Some of them, at least, not all of them. Like, why would you legalize the selling of poison? Like, I know I am actually very much in favor of limited government, but limited government doesn't mean no government. I'm very much in favor of a very limited government, but there are certain things, I'm not an anarchist. Certain things need to be legal. Who agrees with me? I mean, a lot of people agree with Samantha, but who agrees with Samantha and who agrees with me? All drugs, like fentanyl, like selling of it, like profiting from fentanyl, for example, you want that to be legal? That's the end of your society. I think that doesn't make sense. But yeah, tell me why. Tell me why that makes sense. That doesn't make any sense. Why should it all be legal?
the drug dealers. This is going to send a very clear message to other countries, and we're going to avoid a lot of.
Yes, some drugs, I agree. Some drugs should be legal, but not all of them.
This is going to send a very clear message to other countries, and we're going to avoid a lot of problems in the future because of this action that he's taking right now. So I salute President Trump for doing this.
So Venezuela is different than any other country in that it is truly the resources, the richness that it has, the ability it has to stand itself.
By the way, Samantha, we love you. I know we disagree a little bit. Don't get intimidated by us disagreeing with you. Okay, it's fine to disagree here.
The resources, the richness that it has, the ability it has to stand itself up. So once Maduro's gone, and the opposition party, whether it's Edmundo or Maria Corina, sort of step up into that place, she's said to me on various interviews that this will be a peaceful transfer of power, that they have everything in place to just sort of step in. They'll be able to stand themselves up without any assistance from the United States.
Of course.
But let's talk about this moment now. How critical, maybe even dangerous, is this period for her, for the Venezuelan people?
Well, for her, it's very critical. She has been hiding in a tunnel. You know, she's the George Washington of modern times for Venezuelans. She's been hiding, you know this, in a tunnel. We don't know where she is. Maduro forces are looking for her, and still she has the strength and the courage to stay in Venezuela.
That woman is really brave. Like, she's like absolute brave. Like, the fact that she's still in Venezuela and they're looking for her, that's insane. That woman is a hero. I hope she gets to be, she reminds me of Prince Reza Pahlavi. I really hope Venezuela manages to get her to become their leader.
Like no other men. Everyone has fled, and she's there, and she's the legitimate leader of the opposition.
Let's make that point. So Edmundo Gonzalez is the one who won.
So Samantha's saying, I don't want to take fentanyl, but other people should have the right to take it. We're not talking about the right to take it. We're talking about the right to sell it. You shouldn't have the right to sell it. You shouldn't have the right to profit from it. That's what we're talking about here.
Make that point. So Edmundo Gonzalez is the one who won the election officially, right?
Because Chavez did not let her run.
Correct.
So she was.
Actually, the elections were fraud too.
Make that point. So Edmundo Gonzalez is the one who won the election officially, right?
Because Chavez did not let her run.
Correct.
So she was
so she was his second, and she was his second in command. He was the one who won, but he left, and she stayed.
Yes, and not only that is that she was the one who won the primary.
Yeah, of course.
90%. But when Chavez
look at this. This is Venezuela's hero. She's Venezuela's Prince Reza Pahlavi, and she got the Nobel Peace Prize. And she's still in Venezuela, and she's hiding, and they're trying to find her. Maduro is trying to find her. This is what Venezuelans deserve as a leader. Okay? She won the elections, but they took it away from her.
Maduro is the same thing, understands that she is going to be the next legitimate president. She says, no, you cannot run. Politically speaking, according to this law, that other law.
They said you had corruption charges.
Whatever. And then she says, okay, no problem. I'm not running as president. Let me put this nice gentleman in Mundo Gonzalez.
How long before this happens? What is your prediction? Before Christmas?
Imminent, because
we're on the verge. You're saying within days we're going to see something happen.
Because this is what we did with Iran, that we gave ample notice to their commercial airlines. Do not overfly the Venezuela. That's exactly what the president has done. And now this is not going to be hard. 80% of the Venezuelans.
Okay, so that lady, the way I remember her name is the matcha tea. Remember the matcha tea? And then I say matcha do. Okay, that's her name. And I used that cheat code to remember her name, but I forgot already. So matcha tea and then do. Matcha do. That's her name.
Voted for the opposition. You have 8 million Venezuelans in exile. We're talking about the largest reserves of oil in the world.
Yeah, so this is actually good. I'm so glad that this woman is so honest, because we should make it not a taboo to say that, yeah, regime change in Venezuela is beneficial because of the oil. And yeah, go get that oil. And somebody in the chat is saying, like, oh, like, look, it's stealing Venezuelan oil. No, it's just not about stealing. This is not about stealing. When you free a country, that country now has the freedom to sell that oil to an ally, which is now America. And also with the help of America, Venezuela gets to rebuild its energy infrastructure, one that Venezuela doesn't have much of right now. So it's going to be a win-win. It's going to be a win for Venezuela because they get to sell their oil to America. It's going to be a win for America. And it also gets to be a win for the world because, you know, the world is going to have better access to energy, which reduces the prices of everything. You guys, you want more affordability in America? This is how you get it. Rent freezes in New York is not going to make things more affordable. Free buses in New York is not going to make things more affordable. Having better access to energy by freeing Venezuela, reducing energy costs, is going to bring down the prices of everything. This is how you get affordability in America. Yeah. So this lady, instead of saying, oh no, it's not about the oil. No, it is about the oil. Go get that oil. America deserves to have that oil. America deserves to buy that oil from an ally, which will then be Venezuela, if you do this properly, actually.
Iran, that we gave ample notice to their commercial airlines. Do not overfly the Venezuela. That's exactly what the president.
Somebody's saying, why should they sell to America? They don't. There's no should here. Venezuelan people, when they're liberated, they would be an ally of U.S. and they would be selling it willingly because they're in the same continent. And United States would be a natural customer to Venezuela. It only makes sense for Venezuela and United States to be allies, given that one of them has so much oil and the other one is a superpower. It makes no sense for them to be enemies. So this would just be the natural order of things. This will make things make sense if done right.
Commercial airlines do not overfly the Venezuela. That's exactly what the president has done. And now this is not going to be hard. 80% of the Venezuelans voted for the opposition. You have 8 million Venezuelans in exile. We're talking about.
So wait, let's listen to this. You're like, why should they sell their oil to America? Well, listen to her.
This is not going to be hard. 80% of the Venezuelans voted for the opposition.
The opposition that is America friendly. So 80% of Venezuelans voted for an opposition that wants good relationship with America. That's why they will sell their oil to America.
You have 8 million Venezuelans in exile. We're talking about the largest reserves of oil in the world that will be doing business with the American oil companies. And that is something that I have made very.
American oil companies, energy companies, that's what you need. These are the giant corporations that has made America great, And so many Americans are like, oh, big evil corporations, oh, the oil industry, oh, the weapons industry, everything that actually made their lives better, they demonize. Like, I'm glad that this woman is talking about this so positively. The oil, American industry, all of this. Fantastic. That's bold. I like this woman.
Venezuelans in exile.
Maria Salazar.
We're talking about the largest reserves of oil in the world that will be doing business with the American oil companies. And that is something that I have made very sure that they understand. American companies in Venezuela for the next 100 years.
All right.
Nice. Somebody is saying Americans have enough oil. Why so greedy? You can never have enough energy. I know America has a lot of oil, but you can never have enough energy. Never. Okay. This is something I could tell you. You could always use more energy, even if you have a lot. And you say, why so greedy? Well, you say greedy, I say ambitious. And ambition is what made America great. Let me see. Let's actually listen to Trump in the plane. This one again for people who didn't see it while I go find the other video.
Any questions? We had some great economic.
Mr. President, on Venezuela, can you tell us more about why the airspace above Venezuela should be considered closed?
Because we consider Venezuela to be not a very friendly country. They sent millions of people, really, and probably a number in excess of that. And a lot of those people shouldn't be in our country, from jails, from gangs, from drug dealers, from all of the people that came into our country shouldn't have been in our country, causing a lot of problems.
Does your warning
and drugs.
Does your warning mean that an airstrike is imminent, or should we not read it that way?
Don't read anything into it.
The New York Times reported that you had a phone call with Maduro. Did you?
I don't want to comment on it. The answer is yes.
And can you tell us a little bit
No,
about
I can't
it?
do that.
Mr.
Would
President,
you say it went well?
I wouldn't say it went well or badly. It was a phone call. Yeah.
You've made so.
Can you talk a little bit about the strikes and the controversy around Secretary of Defense Pete said?
I don't know anything about it. He said he did not say that, and I believe him 100%.
You don't know if there was.
You're talking about the two men?
The second strike to kill the two men.
No, he said he didn't do it. He said he never said.
Would you be okay with that if he did?
He said he didn't do it, so I don't have to make that decision.
Mr. You've made so. How many companies roughly?
Wait, let's actually. I want to see how Al Jazeera is covering this. What do you guys say? Let's see how Al Jazeera is covering this.
We mentioned there, the US has been rapidly increasing its military presence in the Caribbean. Let's take a closer look at that, because since August, more than 15,000 American soldiers and fighter jets have been deployed near Venezuela. It is the largest deployment of US forces in the region in decades. The US Navy's largest aircraft carrier, the Gerald R. Ford, has arrived in the southern Caribbean. It's the largest ship of its kind in the world, with its own air wing of more than 75.
Wow, look at these.
Navy's largest aircraft carrier, the Gerald R. Ford, has arrived in the southern Caribbean. It's the largest ship of its kind in the world, with its own air wing of more than 75 fighter jets on board, helicopters and early warning aircraft. A Navy destroyer.
I'm not a military expert, but just this one aircraft carrier is more powerful than the army of many nations. This is how powerful the U.S. military forces. Just what you see in this image right here by itself is just more powerful than many countries' entire military, a whole bunch of them combined.
Fighter jets on board, helicopters and early warning aircraft. A Navy destroyer carrying guided missiles, helicopters and Marines has also arrived in Trinidad and Tobago near Venezuela's coast. Venezuela has put its armed forces on high alert, deploying thousands of troops, and reported 5,000 Russian-made missiles across the country, all in order to counter that military buildup. Well, Richard Weiss is senior fellow at the NATO Defense College. He joins us from Washington, D.C. A warm welcome to Al Jazeera. So firstly, can Trump unilaterally declare this no-fly zone? In your opinion, what does all of this mean?
He can, under his authority as commander-in-chief. He can cite self-defense reasons and other authorities. What it means is a harder question because we don't quite know yet what is President Trump's ultimate objectives. Is it to put pressure on the Maduro regime to make concessions? Is it to have a change in the regime? Is it to secure concessions on other issues such as immigration? Is it to reinforce his support at home, showing he's tough on drug trafficking and crime? Or is
How about all of the above at the same time?
it to influence other countries in South America? We know he's had problems with the governments of Brazil and a few others. So perhaps all these motives are at work. Perhaps some
Perhaps all. He said it. I read his mind.
are more important than others. But for now, he's.
Carl is saying Epstein. What do you mean by Epstein? You think this has something to do with Epstein? What does this got to do with Epstein? Let me know.
Decided that putting pressure on the government through the military exercises you just discussed and the declaration of a de facto no-fly zone is going to help him with any of these goals.
Richard, I'm just looking at the flight data map. I think we can probably get it up on screen here that shows that mostly the...
Carl, do you think this is diversion from the Epstein files? I think the Epstein files is diversion for something else. Like, I think the anti-Jew haters have made the Epstein files about something that is not even something bigger than the actual real story was, to justify their attack on a government that is not properly isolationist and supporting Israel. I don't really think, I think a lot of the stuff about the Epstein files are made up. I mean, the guy himself was a criminal, that he was a scumbag himself who was abusing children. That part has been proven. But I think a whole bunch of other parts have been added regarding the files, and most of the rest of the stuff that they say is just conspiracy theory. That's what I think.
Data map. I think we can probably get it up on screen here that shows that mostly the warning to avoid airspace over, there it is, airspace over the country has been heeded. I wonder how the US can actually enforce and maintain this declaration, though, if there are any violations in its eyes.
In theory, the U.S. could shoot down a plane. I don't think that would happen. I think simply making this declaration will lead any civilian airline or company to not want to risk the damage to its plane, death of its pilots and passengers. The insurance liability of flying to Venezuela has gone up a lot. So I think the idea is you just declare this, and this will influence the decision makers of these airlines, which, as you just said, seems to be the case.
Even if there is no military objective behind this, that it is perhaps a very fierce diplomatic form of posturing, this is likely to cause a huge amount of disruption across the country, to commercial airlines, to vast numbers of people.
Guys, look at that. Is that not sexy? You know what? If I had more time, I would study these and figure out what they're capable of. I wish I had time to become more knowledgeable about, military tactics and weaponry. Look at that. It does not show might and power. If you're American, if you see this and you don't feel a sense of pride, I don't know what you're doing. If you're American, you should look at this and we're like, wow, look at us. Look at that. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. Nobody else has these. Nobody else has these. It's only us. We have godlike powers as a country.
To the way in which cities are operating as well, of course, with people going to and from airports.
Right. Now, to be clear, Venezuelan economy is already a mess. I mean, it's had decades of misrule. Millions of people have fled the country to get better jobs. Trade and investment is very limited. So I don't think this will have an immediate impact in making an order of magnitude change in that situation.
Now, we know since early September, the Trump administration has attacked at least 21 boats in the Caribbean Sea and Eastern Pacific and international.
Wait, I was so distracted by the boats. I didn't understand. What's not going to have much of an impact?
It's had decades of misrule, jobs, trade and investment is very limited. So
what investment? What we're
form of
talking about.
posturing. This is likely to cause a huge amount of disruption across the country, to commercial airlines, to vast numbers of people, to the way in which cities are operating as well, of course, with people going to and from airports.
Stupid question.
Right. Now, to be clear, Venezuelan economy is already a mess. I mean, it's had decades of misrule.
Yeah, let the American, if you have a good relationship with America, you're going to be able to, there's a lot of investment that's going to be pouring into Venezuela. It's going to be saving your country, you know? It's going to save your country. Just let it happen. Just let it happen. Just don't resist. It's good for you.
Millions of people have fled the country to get better jobs. Trade and investment is very limited. So
I'm sure most Venezuelans are smart enough to recognize that if this happens, it would be good for them if it's done right.
I don't think this will have an immediate impact in making an order of magnitude change in that situation.
Look at those planes. Oh my God.
Now, we know since early September, the Trump administration has attacked at least 21 boats in the Caribbean Sea and Eastern Pacific in international waters, killing 83 people, many of them Venezuelans, all without providing evidence that those boats were attempting to carry narcotics to the United States. So where is any legal...
You don't need to provide evidence. You just need to have evidence. In case somebody challenges you, then you will provide the evidence there. You just need to have the evidence. You don't need to provide the evidence.
Justification for, firstly, this and any possible land strike on Venezuela.
I'm not an international lawyer, so my knowledge of this question is limited, but I think that most lawyers seem to be able to find justification for whatever their clients want to do. So I'm suspecting they're going to find some justification, reasons of self-defense or...
There you go. There you go, guys. You can make anything international-wise. You know, there's enough loopholes to make all of this legal. All of this could be legal if you just look at it from the right way, okay?
Whatever. But I think that the what's motivating the decision is less the legal considerations than the political military considerations.
Looking at this militarily...
Yeah, so basically it doesn't really matter if you come like, oh my God, this was illegal. This violated international law. This guy just said that none of that really matters. That's what he said.
We know that some of the United States' allies have been quite tentative about sharing intelligence with the United States over concern that there would be breaches of international law. I mean, if the United...
You know, guys, on this channel, we learn how pathetic the idea of this violates international laws are when the whole world keeps condemning Israel over over many different things for violating international law. And we look at what Israel is doing and the whole world telling Israel that they're violating international law. It made us understand how pathetic and meaningless they are. Because if Israel trying to survive means that they're violating international law, then fuck your international law, right? Then fuck your international law. So this is, I mean, these international institutions have made their laws meaningless by telling Israel, like teaching us that they're meaningless by telling Israel that they shouldn't be protecting themselves and they shouldn't be taking their own land. That's how we know they're meaningless. And if you want us to take them seriously, well, we don't anymore, and that's your doing.
The States does decide to act unilaterally in Venezuela. Could we expect Western allies, France, the United Kingdom, and others to hold back here and offering any kind of support whatsoever?
I think that could well be the case. We saw this, for example, when the U.S. and Britain invaded Iraq a couple decades ago. Some countries decided to declare they opposed this and refused to assist, at least initially. That said, I mean, I think in this scenario, the U.S. has pretty much all the intelligence and support it needs. It's got some partners in the region. It certainly has more force than needed for anything but a land invasion. So I think it would be more a diplomatic problem, some strains with the allies in Europe, perhaps more strains with partners and allies in South America. I'm sure the Russians and Chinese would bring the issue to the Security Council to attack the U.S. But I think if the U.S. wants to try and shoot down planes over Venezuela or threaten to do so, it can without the assistance of other governments.
What about Venezuela's capacity to defend itself and to strike back potentially if required?
Thought to be modest. Again, Iraq is a good example here of how the U.S. and Britain pretty much overwhelmed Saddam Hussein's Republican Guard and all those feared forces. So the main problem of actually using force in Venezuela, particularly a land invasion, is what comes afterwards. So, okay.
See, this guy gets it. That's what I told you guys. When it comes to taking action against the Venezuelan military or removing the government, that is, United States has enough power to do that without anyone else's help. Like, that's not going to be that difficult. But I think what he's going to say is that the difficult part, which is, it doesn't really matter how much military might you have. Your military might just gives you the ability to just remove governments if needed. But bringing order after, that is the difficult part. And I think that's what he's going to say.
Venezuela, particularly a land invasion, is what comes afterwards. So, okay, you destroy the existing political military structure. They're really good civilian candidates to take over leadership, but the economy would be a wreck. There wouldn't be force to keep law and order unless the U.S. troops stayed there for years, as we saw in Iraq. So I think that's actually the main deterrent.
I mean, if the U.S. troops have to stay there for years for them to be able to have proper elections, then they should pay for that stability. Venezuela can pay the United States in oil for their services for staying there and maintaining order. It would be a simple transaction, right? So we will give you oil. You keep your military here in Venezuela give us security services until we figure this out. That could be a good exchange.
There for years, as we saw in Iraq. So I think that's actually the main deterrent rather than any kind of retaliation the Venezuelan military could do, which would be modest.
And of course, the US has issued that huge $50 million bounty for Maduro's arrest. I mean, the fact that the United States might feel the need to ratchet up things militarily with any kind of direct action in Venezuela, does that say that offer of a huge amount of money and whatever intelligence the US may have operating on the ground in Venezuela isn't working on its own?
What they prefer, what I think the Trump administration would prefer is if the Venezuelan military were to seize power and arrest Maduro, or Maduro would go off to, follow Bashar Assad's solution and fly off to Moscow or Cuba or someplace. But since that hasn't...
Go join Assad. Oh my God, they're falling very fast, right? Yeah, go become Assad's neighbor.
Occurred. They're clearly ratcheting up pressure, and this may be part of this, the military maneuvers and the no-fly zone.
All right, it's been really good to hear your thoughts.
All right, this might be better. Yeah. Guys, you know what? You know why CNN has more views? Because the visuals, they know how to make it bright and shiny, and the visuals make this. I really think that the CNN really has figured out how to. Yeah, so I think that's what
weekend.
I think it has a huge impact. I mean, look at this. For example, let me actually show you something. Where's the BBC one? Okay, look at this. So they say don't judge a book by the cover, but people judge a book by a cover. Look, this is CNN. This is BBC. This is CNN. This is BBC. You could really see why people would prefer to watch CNN. It's just easier on the eyes, right? Right.
At Mar-a-Lago and on the golf course, and sending a barrage of missives on social media, affecting politics at home and abroad. Beginning yesterday morning, when he declared the airspace above Venezuela, quote, closed in its entirety, amid what he says is a campaign aimed at disrupting drug cartels, prompting Venezuela to accuse Trump of an, quote, illegal and unjustified aggression against their country. Meanwhile, at home, he's taking his anti-immigration agenda to a whole new level in the wake of the shooting of 2 National Guard members in Washington.
How is he doing, by the way? Is he okay? Or is he still in critical condition?
Suspect an Afghan national. Trump now threatening a host of new measures, halting all asylum decisions, saying he would pause migration from, quote, third world countries, while warning that green card holders from certain countries would have their papers reviewed. And
like somebody saying, "Oh my God, you're getting their information from CNN." No, you freaking idiot. We're basically you just arrived here. We're checking everywhere. We checked Fox, we checked CNN, we checked Al Jazeera, and we don't trust these people. We are just because we're listening to them, that doesn't mean that we trust everything that they say. I mean, I've been pushing back against what they have been saying all the time. You're an idiot. You are retarded, basically. Okay. So in the chat, like, oh my God, you're getting your news from the CNN. Haven't you seen that we actually push back on some of the things that we hear here? It's not like everything they say we just trust it. And you can see that we have been using all these other sources. And also, every time they say something that I'm not sure if it's true or not, I'm fact checking it. I have this screen, and then I'm doing here fact. Sometimes I'm fact checking them. I check with you guys, see what your opinions are. So it's not like we're just watching and listening to them and just believing whatever they say.
His rhetoric has gotten even coarser. There's a lot to unpack this morning, and I have an excellent panel to break this all down with. Tia Mitchell with the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, CNN's Stephen Collinson, and USA Today's Susan Page. Good morning.
Good morning.
Happy Thanksgiving belatedly. Nice to see you all here. I want to start with what's happening with Venezuela, because I think that a lot of Americans don't realize what's happening down there. We're seeing the biggest military buildup down there in the Caribbean in decades. And it's not entirely clear what the next steps are going to be. There's been more than 80 people killed in these more than 20 boat strikes that have occurred. The administration says it is about disrupting these cartels, but the buildup is much broader than suggesting a simple effort to try to get rid of cartels. What is this? Is this an effort to try to topple the Maduro government there? Is this a possible war that they're preparing for? Or is it saber rattling?
I think one of the reasons why we don't know the answers to that is because the administration hasn't really explained it very well. To your point, it does look like a psyops operation to try and topple Maduro, the president of Venezuela, or to get the generals around him to do it for the United States. The administration...
By the way, I wonder where the Iranian leaders are going to run away to if Venezuela falls, okay? Because not the Iranians, the Islamic Republic leaders right now, their options were Russia and Venezuela. And Russia seems like a dangerous option right now, because it seems like Russia is selling out Assad. But Venezuela, if Venezuela falls, then the leaders of Islamic Republic are going to be very afraid regarding where to run away to, because Venezuela was one of their 2 options. If you guys don't know, Maduro and the Islamic Republic, they're buddies. Did you guys know who? Like, I'm hoping most of you guys knew this in the chat, right? Maduro and the Islamic Republic are allies, and they work very closely with each other. This is why a lot of Iranians would love to see the fall of Maduro.
Argument that this is all about drugs trafficking is somewhat curious, because if that was the aim, there might be other places in Latin America where you would start it. The polls, for example, show massive, overwhelming opposition among Americans to a war in Venezuela. A lot of people think it would be incompatible with the president's, foundational belief of no more foreign wars. But this is a very MAGA thing, I think. There's clearly an attempt by the administration to project American power through the Western Hemisphere. That's not new historically, but they're backing all of these populist right-wing leaders through Brazil, Argentina, The president intervened in the election today in Honduras, saying he was going to pardon the former president of Honduras, who was found guilty in the US of drugs trafficking. So that undercuts one of the big rationales. So it's very unclear, I think, exactly what the strategic goal is of the administration.
And speaking of the polls, as you mentioned, it just a CBS News poll just out recently about whether Americans would favor military action in Venezuela. Just 30%, 70% would oppose. I mean, to Stephen's point,
the U.S. military action in Venezuela among Americans, 30% favor, 70% would oppose. Well, it's not a referendum. You voted for the president. It's called representative democracy, not a direct democracy, right?
typically when you see a military campaign, there is a buildup, there's a messaging strategy. We saw this with George W. Bush in the Iraq War. There's really been none of that with the Trump administration right now.
In fact, an even higher percentage in that poll said the president needs to explain what's going on there. 3/4 of Americans said that.
When you say he needs to explain, like, is there a law that says that? Because last time I checked, everything he's doing right now is in violation of no U.S. laws. Like, he gets to do this as the president. The laws in the U.S. allow him to do this. So when you say he needs to come and do and this, like do this and this, like, are you saying that it would be a good thing if he did that? Because why does he need to? There's nothing that obligates him to do that.
2/3 of Republicans said they needed to hear more explanation from Trump before moving ahead. So clearly this would be, I think, politically here.
But that's not how U.S. politics works. It's not when you vote for a president and he becomes a president, then he gets to then do these things without explaining it to you. You should have made your decision when you were voting at the ballot box. You don't get to then dictate to your president what to do while he's serving his term in the middle of, like, oh, no, don't do this, do this. Like, that's not how it works. You had your say when you were voting. You don't get to have your say every single time he's making a decision.
A risky maneuver and one hard to square with the pardon he's promised now to a Honduran president who has undergone due process and been convicted, as opposed to the people, the 80-plus people who've been killed at sea, who have not gone through due process before being killed by American forces.
And there are these questions that are building on the...
Somebody saying a president is not a king and cannot do whatever he wants. First of all, it's funny that you say he's not a king, as if kings can do anything. I think you're stuck in the dark ages, because right now kings actually have less power than presidents. Just go look at the kings in the UK, Sweden, Norway, Denmark. So he's not a king. The presidents have more power than kings. Just look around the world. So what are you talking about? And also, I didn't say he can do whatever he wants, but he can do this. The laws of the United States allow him to do this.
Due process before being killed by American forces.
And there are these questions that are building on the Hill, too, about the campaign that's going on there. Yesterday, we saw the leaders of the House and Senate Armed Services Committee come out and demand answers about a military strike that occurred, a boat strike that occurred in early September, in which Pete Hegseth, the defense secretary, apparently ordered everyone who was on that vessel to be killed. There's some concern about the way that it was conducted. It could have violated
We got a great super chat saying Maduro, Ayatollah, and al-Assad will be hanging out in Putin's secret lair in the volcano with Dr. Evil. Soon. Yes, soon. Hopefully soon. Oh my God. Imagine Khamenei, Maduro, and Assad together in Moscow because all of their governments fell. That would be poetic. That would be amazing.
Rules of armed conflict. Yeah. It just shows you you don't really see this kind of bipartisan calls for information, investigation when it's Republicans leading these committees asking the Trump administration for details.
It's bipartisan. It's both the House and the Senate. And I think, we don't have a lot of information even about the 80 people who were killed. But the little bit.
But is there a law that makes the U.S. president, that obligates the U.S. president to tell you these things, or the cabinet to tell you these things? Like, you're like, oh, we don't have any information about who are these 80 people. Like, I'm not saying there's no, but is there a U.S. law that makes the United States have to report this to you? Like, what? Okay. Or are you just complaining? Are you just virtue signaling to your voter base?
And even about the 80 people who were killed. But the little bit that has been reported as media has been digging is that they were relatively low level on, you know, the hierarchy of drug trafficking. They were probably just regular people who were hired to do the transporting.
Oh, they weren't big deal drug traffickers. They were just regular drug traffickers. Oh, okay. Decent people then, I guess. Don't kill them. They're just average drug dealers. They're just average drug dealers. They're not like the big boss drug dealer. What the fuck?
They were probably just regular people who were hired to do the transporting, not.
Okay, so they were drug traffickers. That's all. That's all we needed to know. They're not like they were regular people who listen
They
to
were
this.
probably just regular people who were hired to do the transporting.
Yeah, regular people don't transport drugs. Like these were just regular people who were transporting drugs. Guys, how many of you transport drugs? How many like that's like I don't think regular people do that, lady. They were just regular people just doing some average drug dealing in the Caribbean. What the fuck? Just regular, like Trump just killing regular people. Just doing average. Your daily. What is this?
Not necessarily the masterminds.
Oh, John is saying, what if the mafia forces them to do the job? Tough luck. I need to save my people. If you're part of the mafia, then it's sad that you have to go, but you have to go. You have to go. I can't, like, when I'm taking down criminal organizations, I cannot like sit down with every single member and be like, well, tell me your life story. Like, oh, well, I was abused as a child and that's how I got into crime. Oh, guys, don't punish this guy. It was because of his bad childhood experience that he became a criminal. Like, fighting crime would be impossible if we were like, oh my God, this person is forced, this person had bad experiences, this person had a traumatic childhood. So, like, that will, like, yeah, it's sad. It's sad and it's difficult to say. But if you're bringing drugs into my country, then you gotta go.
People who were hired to do the transporting, not necessarily the masterminds behind the operation. So again, the question is, if you're just killing.
I mean, this way we can't even kill Hamas terrorists, for example. Like, oh, don't shoot these Hamas terrorists. They're just the regular, average people who are following orders. They're not doing they're not the mastermind behind the terrorist attacks. They're part of the operation.
The mules, so to speak. Does that really affect the operation? Because at the end of the day, probably the cartel saw them as dispensable as well. So I just think there is so much problematic about these killings, about the buildup, about what the plan is for Venezuela. And I think most Americans, not just, I mean, Trump, as we've talked about, his whole campaign was centered around ending foreign wars, focusing on domestic issues. But
I mean, Venezuela has waged war on America already. So they're poisoning your people. They're supporting terrorists. They're supporting your enemies, which is the Islamic Republic. So that's already war upon your country. So if you want to end wars, you have to end the people who are waging war on your country.
even beyond that, I think a lot of people in America are just like, why Venezuela?
Yeah, exactly. Someone in the chat saying they started the war. Yeah, if you want to end wars, then you have to end the people who start wars.
Why now? Why in this way? It just doesn't, there's just not enough evidence or information.
And I want to get back to what you referenced earlier here, Stephen, about this pardon that Trump gave to the former Honduran president, Juan Orlando Hernandez, because what the Trump administration is saying is that this Venezuela campaign is about to disrupt these drug cartels. They say they campaigned on it. This is what this is about. Well, Hernandez was given an $8 million fine by a U.S. judge just last year and sentenced for 45 years in prison for his role in drug trafficking. This is how the New York Times put it. So the two posts displayed a remarkable dissonance in the president's strategy as he moved to escalate a military campaign against drug trafficking while ordering the release of a man prosecutors said had taken, quote, cocaine-fueled bribes from cartels. It goes on to say prosecutors said that Mr. Hernandez for years allowed bricks of cocaine from Venezuela to flow through Honduras en route to the United States. Trump said in his pardon about why he did it. He said in Truth Social, said, many people said that he was treated very harshly and unfairly.
Yeah, and that seems to be.
Yeah, well, you guys not have anybody here on your panel that could represent the other side? Because I don't know, again, I'm not trusting you guys. I don't know if you're representing the other side very well. This is a very one-sided panel. Like, you guys are, this is a circle jerk. You all are agreeing with each other. Is there not a single person here on this panel that represents the other side that could challenge you guys so I could see if you're representing what's happening here fairly or not?
The rationale that he was a former president.
See, this is bullshit. You guys, you're just basically sitting around and all agreeing with each other. What's the point of that? You need to have somebody here to, like, if you had one guest, I would understand. But if it's a panel, you have to have multiple different opinions here.
Who was forced to face justice. We've seen this before, in fact, in Brazil, with the president looking after his political allies. Clearly, it's completely incompatible with the idea of a drugs war. But at the same time, I think this is a president and an administration that's increasingly seeking to use its power for its own purposes while it can, and perhaps isn't as much worried about polls and the Constitution and power as perhaps.
The Constitution? Like, how is this violate the Constitution?
Perhaps it should be, given the fact that a lot of Republicans are worried about how this all plays out in the midterms.
You know, the fact that the Republican chairs of the House and Senate Armed Services Committee are willing to announce that they're going to investigate this, demand some answers from the Trump administration, strikes me as one sign of the erosion we're beginning to see.
There's not a single person on this panel defending Trump. How is this helpful? Okay, yes, we all see you guys don't like what Trump is doing. Where's the person who's saying, like, I like what Trump is doing, and this is why?
With President Trump standing, even with his own party. We've been waiting for years for this to happen. It's been predicted again and again. But his approval rating is down to a record second-term low. And Republicans are increasingly nervous about what's going to happen in the midterms to them in next year's election.
In the meantime, he's announced all these immigration efforts as well. While this is all happening in Mar-a-Lago, the shooting of these National Guard members happened in Mar-a-Lago. One of them sadly was killed, another one fighting for his life. Trump then going on social media saying he would go all out on a whole wide range of actions. While he was in Mar-a-Lago, of course, he was playing golf.
By the way, if I don't have Trump derangement syndrome, but I'm also not somebody who wouldn't criticize it. Like, I need to see what that story is. If Trump actually pardoned somebody with no good reason that was dealing drugs, that's fucking bullshit. Like, I have no problem criticizing Trump for that. I just don't know if I could trust these people telling me what that story is, because there's nobody else challenging them. But if he did that, that's bullshit.
All out on a whole wide range of actions. While he was in Mar-a-Lago, of course, he was playing golf. He posted this on social media, playing golf with the live golfer Brooks Koepka, the former NHL great Wayne Gretzky, the Fox News host Brett Baer. That happened yesterday. Trump posted a chip shot that he made also as well.
Why are you showing me this?
I'll pin that to the top of his Truth Social account. But he was also announcing pretty aggressive immigration actions, among them.
Okay, we're moving away from Venezuela, so forget that. We're not going to talk immigration today. Anyways, guys, come. Anybody who disagrees with me on my takes on international law or war against Venezuela, or if you agree with me, come into our discussion group, because we're going to have a live call in about 10 minutes. Okay, I put the link in the chat. It's also in the description. It's a free group. It's not like you don't have to pay anything. Oh, yes. Okay, I already read that one. So, and we have live calls. You could come in and check the calendar. I mean, it's pinned. Actually, the live call is at the very top. So come in there, and we're gonna have a live call in 10 minutes, and you guys could convince me that I'm wrong, or you could congratulate me about how correct I am about everything. Either way, or you could have a different topic entirely, as long as it's about global politics. All right, so I'm going to go get ready for a group call. I really love our group calls. The people there are amazing. We have some really interesting discussions there. So I'm going to go get ready for that. This was fun. I enjoyed hanging out with you guys. Love you guys. And Yes. Again, link. I will put the link one more time in the chat. All right. By the way, last stream I forgot to say I'm Israel Chai Javid Shah. So today I will not forget that. Okay. So guys, I'm Israel Chai Javid Shah. See you guys tomorrow.